to order and we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And then after that, we're going to let the first graders do their thing. And by then, Rebecca should be. So, we're going to call to order at 6:01 and pledge allegiance.
So the month of December, first graders embarked on an international journey, completing a Holidays Around the World unit. We traveled to 12 countries and researched how they celebrate Christmas. We compared how their traditions are similar and how they are different to the way we celebrate with our families in the United States. Each day, students ran into the classroom to find a postcard from a student in a different country, which we displayed back here. They were excited to see where we would travel each day. Students recorded where we traveled in a passport, and they got international stamps each day to track where we had gone. We researched the country's holiday traditions, and we recorded what we learned in our travel journals. We found each country on the world map, and we even learned about their flag. Students made suitcases out of paper bags, and then they collected artifacts, so we made a craft each day that represented the country we learned about. And tonight, I'm joined by 10 of our first graders. They are going to each explain a country of their choice. So I have Caroline with us, I have Jacob, Millie, Julian, Mason, summer, and what do they like to do to celebrate?
Barbecue.
Good job. Yeah, so we made a melted snowman. Next up we have Leah. She chose to talk about Sweden. So in Sweden they have here that happens, do you remember? Oldest daughter.
The oldest daughter wakes up early in the morning to prepare her family breakfast.
What does she wear?
She wears a white dress
Crown.
and a crown of king.
And then we made a crown. We have Caleb. He chose to talk about China.
Hi, my name is Caleb and I'm representing China. In China, children celebrate the Lunar New Year's.
Do you remember what the craft was? What does the zodiac tell us? Each year is represented by what? A different animal?
Different each year
Yep.
is represented by an animal in the Chinese zodiac.
Good job. What do they eat?
Foods like oranges, good fortune cookies, and moon cakes are eaten for good luck. Family celebrate by decorating with lanterns, fireworks, and gifts, money in red envelopes.
And also going to talk about India.
They have Diwali in India. What does the festival of lights and I made a
We have paper lanterns. Ethan is going to talk about Russia.
They decorate gingerbread houses.
Presentation. Thank you so much. We also have some work samples. This is our suitcases, their passports, have their pictures with different passport stamps each day that we went to a new country. And then this was their little suitcase journal that they completed each day. Country reading. Thank you.
For that camera. Well, I don't think you can.
awesome job, and I think they all had it. So, we're gonna start public input, before Rebecca gets here. The first thing says responses to public input questions, but last meeting I was a little lenient with public input questions, so we just kind of had back and forth, so we didn't have any. If you guys want to do public input, you need to use the microphone. So, who's first?
My first question is, when is the last day to submit for petition warrant article?
Deadline is January 13th for the March SB.
The next request that I have is I'd like a listing of all school vehicles from 2020 through current, and showing the vehicles that were discarded and the vehicles acquired, how much we paid, how much we sold them for, and how much we paid for the vehicles, and who they were sold to, who we bought from. Crosses anything as all school vehicles. It was under my impression from watching the video from the December 17th meeting, which I don't think was fully posted for everybody to know that that meeting was happening, because I certainly would have come. I guess, when was it discussed and voted on the board to sell buses and vans? Because I believe that was a discussion at the last meeting, that 2 buses and vans were sold. I don't recall being at a meeting where the school board okayed that to be done. Let's see. Whose term is up for the election this year? And I guess also that was discussed at the 12-17 meeting. It was stated that there was a member who was looking to resign at the beginning of the year. However, the board, or there was some conversation that the board would rather that person resign after the election. Why would that be suggested, other than the board may want to choose to fill that position, that seat is for the next election, until the next election? And I guess my other comment would be is, I know that there's a communication committee. I guess perhaps the school board could enlist the services of the people who put together the town newsletter to include the news, though I will say that that newsletter is not sanctioned by the Board of Selectmen. They do a thorough job, or more so, disseminating town business. Maybe they should be including the school business as well.
Anybody else?
Thanks, President. Agenda review. Do we want to do the acceptance of minutes?
One last question, and I'll speak louder. So we have no responses to the public input questions from not the December 17th meeting, because that's the meeting that was the most recent one, but the one prior to that, the week before, the 12-10?
Well, no, because remember I just let everybody talk and we kind of answered all the questions.
Okay, so I guess my question would be going forward, is that the format we're going to use, or are we going to expect written responses? I just wanted, are we going to be consistent on how we handle that, that's all?
No, that was me because I was running it because Rebecca wasn't here, but Rebecca is going to have everybody ask the questions and then do the responses for the next week.
Okay, just want to know what the expectation is. Thanks.
So that was on me.
No, I'm just asking. I didn't know what the format, because that's
Sorry, I just have a follow-up then. What will the turnaround be? Because now we're in close to deliberative session. Next week is the public hearing for the budget committee. I would like to know the answers. If we're here to discuss buying a new bus tonight, I would like to hear the answers regarding the old buses. It's not on the agenda, but it was, I guess it was said by the school board member on social media. That's why we're having a public hearing for
The public hearing tonight my understanding is that it's regarding special ed. Special ed?
Yep.
Yeah. Jen's confirming, special ed. And some of the answers we will discuss later.
I would just like to tell the board, I really think you should get these answers out like within the week. You're on top of voting.
Okay. So, should we do the acceptance of minutes? So, first we have the minutes from December 10th.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes as presented for the meeting of December 10th, 2025.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, and Heather, are you there?
I am, but I have to abstain because I don't have them in front of me to read it.
Okay. I was gonna say Heather is not feeling well, so she's gonna join the meeting via phone call. So are we gonna vote on the minutes? All in favor? Aye. Yeah, to the minutes from December the 10th. And Nicole made the motion and Samantha seconded it. Okay, and then we're gonna have to hold off on the minutes of December 17th because Heather can't vote on that and Samantha wasn't here, so we have to wait for Rebecca. So, do you want to start with the Milton Elementary update?
Absolutely, thank you very much. Superintendent's report, we'll start with the Middleton Elementary School update, so I will pass this along. Thank you, and hello everybody. We are back and running at MES. It has been great to see everybody after a long break and be ready to hit the ground running. A thank you to our community for coming out for our winter concert last December. We had a full house, and we love getting to hear our students perform. Thank you also to our Alpaca Pals PTA. At the December 10th meeting, they had given us a number of gift cards through their fundraising for teachers, and it was my pleasure to be able to put them in their boxes and to be able to help facilitate their support of our classrooms, so I really appreciate that. We also, in the last month, had our Breakfast in Candyland event, and it was amazing. We have really appreciated the collaboration we've had this year with our rec committee, and I should mention also that our Alpaca Pals PTA also supported that event. This is the largest breakfast we believe that the Middleton Elementary School has ever had, with over 100 kids from town getting gifts donated by the rec, having breakfast, and getting to do some crafts and visit with Santa. This was a really big event, and it was really exciting to see everybody come out. Many hands make light work, and it was just a real positive for our community. So thank you to everybody who helped. I would also add a big thank you to our Santa who came. He was fantastic. I also want to share that our water is once again working. You might have noticed that we don't have any bubblers. We're very excited about that, especially our custodial staff. We got the all clear from water quality testing, and we pulled the bubblers the next day. I also want to note, though, that we did uncover a small leak in one of our water tanks. We're working to get a quote to determine if it can be fixed or if it needs to be replaced. And then I also want to share that we started a new program called the Polar Explorers at MES, in which students who have parent permission and appropriate gear and who want to can go outside on indoor recess days and access our wide open playground. This program is available for students in grades 3 through 6. We had our first day on Monday, and our students were so excited to have the playground to themselves and to get that fresh air and run around. This program is run by our PE teacher, Mr. Buell, and about half of every grade level has signed up to take advantage. With this recent patch of snow, we're really hoping to offer snowshoeing at our next one, so we're really excited about that. Thank you all so much.
questions for Principal Levitt Carlson regarding her report? Okay. So the next item on the superintendent's report is deliberative session. The board adopted the budget and warrant articles and determined the order at the last meeting. However, typically the board members volunteer to be spokespersons for each of the articles during deliberative. That's something you can vote on, or you people can just volunteer for that. How would you like to do that? So what we do is we prepare the presentation. So you would just read the warrant article, and we have, a little bit of an explanation of the warrant article, and that's pretty much it. You don't have to speak on the fly. I believe the moderator reads the whole first section and Article 1, and then it would start with Article 2, the budget.
For that, just so you know, you missed a very cute presentation from first grade. A bunch of questions from Roxanne, and the acceptance of the December 10th minutes, but we didn't get to do the December 17th minutes because we didn't have enough people available. And Heather is on the phone because she's not available. Yes. Okay. And that's for the catch-up.
Okay, does anyone have any specific topics as far as the voter session update, like how the warrant articles?
Yes, it's after the minutes.
You want to do 3 and 4? So Nicole will do 3 and 4. I don't remember. I mean, I'm fine to do it, or Heather can do it. It doesn't matter to me either way.
I don't have what you're looking at, so just sign me up for whatever.
Did you really want to do the one for the DPT?
I'm fine either way, whatever you guys don't want to do, I'll cover it.
Is there anything that you're asking for? All right, so Article 2, the operating budget. Does anyone want to do that? Heather, do you want to do that one? Or do you want me to do it?
No, I could do that, it makes sense.
Okay. All right, if you're gonna do that, then I will, if you're okay with it, I'll do the, Article 5 and is it Article 8, the special education trust fund? Skip. Mike, it says 5 and 8 okay. Do we move? All right. Yeah, I can do this special education and the DPT if you want. You're going to try. Yeah, I'll do 5 and 6.
Okay, so that leaves us with a bus for construction renovation and the program.
I do not much. I'll do that. I can do this.
I'll do the last one.
the budget of $3,000 in the school board function on page 3 at the top, under contracted services, is for the actual GASB requirement for an audit. And also, this line has been drawn over. I do believe that the criminal record checks for new staffing are charged to that line as well.
Thank you.
How about the repairs and maintenance? On page 4.
Could you repeat your question? I couldn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Sure. The maintenance and repairs, that looks like we budgeted for 12 and we're at negative 59.92. Just wondering what that we did the repairs for.
Yep, on page 4, that's under buildings, operating building services for the 2620 function. I have not requested from the trustee of trust fund yet the check for the withdrawal from that trust to fix the water.
Oh, thank you.
I will be doing that though.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. If there's no other questions, we'll move into the bus driver update. I'm looking at her, ignore me. I will catch up with that, actually. All right, then we are moving into. Yeah. You got it. All right, then we would move into the special education trust fund withdrawal public hearing. Yeah, go for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am officially opening the public hearing for the special education trust fund withdrawal at 6:34.
Thank you. I will share some information regarding the request to withdraw from the Special Education Trust Fund, and then you can open it up to public input, and then the board will take action. So we are requesting approximately $372,248.99 from the Special Ed Trust Fund to pay for unanticipated special ed costs. As of December 22nd, there is $52,742.47 left within the Middleton School District Special Education budget. When presenting the fiscal year 26 special ed budget in the fall of 2024, there were expenses that were unknown at that time. These include continuous specialized reading tutoring, additional contracted support for 2 elementary students, out-of-district placement for a middle school student, out-of-district placement for an elementary school student. Contracted services include from Applied ABC, has been contracted for 2 middle school, elementary school students. So those costs include behavioral tech, so that's essentially a paraprofessional with behavior training. One is for 33 hours a week, which costs $190,000. The second student is 33 hours a week, and that costs approximately $95,000. Behavioral, board-certified behavior analyst costs are, for the first student, is $10,800, and the second student is $1,500, 10 times for the year. The out-of-district placement at Birch Academy, The tuition is $118,918.80 for the year. There's also related service costs associated with that student. The placement for a middle school student at John Power School, partial amounts of the tuition costs have already been covered by the special ed budget, which totaled $61,012.40. That had been budgeted for other needs. The ESY tuition, that's tuition for the summer portion for the student, has already been paid by district funds, $3,459.68. This cost was unanticipated. Although this was unanticipated, we've paid and covered some of the costs. We will need the following: $12,630.40 for tuition, $1,914.84 for related services, and $725.76 for a second related service. Transportation costs for both of these out-of-district students were not considered in the creation of this proposed budget. One Middleton Elementary student shares a ride with a Governor Wentworth student. The other MES student is currently using a GW RSD driver and bus. So the known total cost needed total is $431,619.80, which, as you can tell, exceeds the amount in the special ed trust. However, we are also looking at grant funds from the IDEA grant to offset some of the costs, as all districts do every year. The special education teams may need to reconvene and reconsider levels of support. This is not best practice necessarily and may be against federal or state statutes. So in other words, if the district cannot identify the funds, the teams would have to reassess the plans for the students. If there are any questions, I can certainly attempt to.
All right, so I'm going to open up for public input at 6:38.
Can you give those numbers again, because you were going kind of fast? Just the ones at the beginning, the 373 and the 52,000?
Sure.
Let's see. I can say that the request to withdraw is $372,248.99. As of December 22nd, 2025, we have $52,742.47 left within the special ed budget.
And can you just tell me why is it approximate? The breakdown of the penny seems, so could that amount change?
As far as the request to withdraw,
Yes. You said it was approximate.
Because that is the balance in the special ed trust as of 6/30/2025. That's the full amount as of that audited dollar amount. And Jenna might be able to add how much might be in interest income, but I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You want that total?
Go ahead.
As of the end of November, it's $376,177.
Thank you.
However, I have a question. You said there were grants you were applying for. So if those grants come through, is that going to reduce the amount you want from the trust fund?
thank you for that question. So the IDEA grant is not a competitive grant. It's an entitlement grant that the district gets every year. So we already have that allocation. You get that allocation every year. So it's already used for different things in special education every year. But as things change, we can look at that and try to
road, spilled off, you're gonna have to supply all that backup to me for me to write that check out. So just so you are aware.
Would you like it piecemeal, or would you like it all at once?
Put it all in an envelope and mail it to me.
Okay. No,
As
because
long as
we
everything is-
also might have a cash issue, so I'll most likely be looking at it on a monthly basis.
Yep.
And then sending you, so you can expect me to reach out to you every month. Does that sound good?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
As long
Appreciate
as
it.
you have the backup,
Oh, I always do.
my name is
Thank
on the check, I'm covering me.
And I'm looking out for the district also, absolutely, so thank you.
Right.
Roxanne?
So the 52,742, you said that's coming out of this year's budget, 25 to 26, that hasn't been spent, or is going to be allocated out of the special ed, so that's coming out of the 1,200 line? So are there, have we encumbered special ed costs for these for some of these requests that you're doing?
The superintendent just read off that some of them, as of one of the particular students, a partial amount has already been encumbered in the special ed budget, approximately $61,012.40.
Okay, so I guess that would come to about, so we have these students who are going to go out of district, so the services that they're currently we're receiving in district, are those expenses going to go down because we no longer have to pay for them in district because they're going out of district? So will we not get any savings there, or no?
It's my understanding that the students have been in these placements since the beginning of the school year. So it's not that they're going this week, or kind of mid-December, and there are services here that we can now reduce. So that's not the case.
There was one child that last month left the school and was tuition down. So will that offset?
If that's the case, then yes.
So I guess my comment would be is, I guess we're fortunate enough that we have the $377,000 in the special education CRF. But considering that, I will say that that was pretty much done by the budget committee like 5 years ago to dump a bunch of money in there because of something like this coming up, because the $7,000 that's in the warrant article each year isn't paying for anything. So I don't know where we would have gotten the money to potentially pay for these services, and then I guess maybe having a special meeting, or maybe they would close the school down because we wouldn't be adequate and we wouldn't be able to teach our children.
Is there a plan for the future? Because you're basically depleting that fund. And there's plenty of other children in this school who are on IEP and have needs. And potentially there could come a time where one of those kids needs more or needs to be tuitioned out. So do you guys have a plan in place now so the taxpayers don't go broke?
We did change the articles this year to address that, to have the special education trust fund get a greater amount and be further up in the.
How much?
$100,000.
But that money, that only goes in with the money left
Every
over.
month.
But so last year you said that there was no money left over because you basically ran the budget down to the very last penny and spent everything. And you weren't able to fund any of those funds. So if we're already at that predicament now with a $6 million budget, $7 million budget, who's to say that we're gonna be able to continue to fund it? Because you guys are spending everything down to the last penny. Is there a better plan in place? Are you guys searching for grants? I mean, is that come to a point where the taxpayers are gonna push back and they're gonna cut you to the bone? And my child and the rest of the children in this community are gonna suffer for it. Do you have a plan? You were all elected to take on this job. Do you have a plan in place for our children?
So the best that we had the ability to do this time was we were presented information of this huge deficit, was to reallocate the warrant articles so that we can try our best to do that and then work with the district to figure out what else we can do from there.
Scott?
So kind of a multi-part question here, but, so clearly the budget that we're currently in does not support the needs. Was that a known at the point that the budget last year was put together?
This is all unanticipated costs.
So we didn't know that we were going to have these children, that we were going to have these needs and these expenditures.
Correct.
Okay. Now, my next part of that question comes in is seeing the current budget that's, I think semi-finalized, I guess would be the best way to put that. Does that budget encompass essentially the cost that we are over this year? Meaning, in other words, the budget that's going in here in March, does that budget include the expenses that we're discussing right now to take out of the special education fund? Meaning, in other words, if it does, we're not going to have to go back to that fund essentially next year to try and get more money, even though it won't be in here. Does that make sense?
So, yes, it's a two-part question.
Yeah.
So, yes, even though this is a special ed trust withdrawal hearing, I have permission to comment on the budget itself, in that that is why the proposal is higher.
Okay.
That's exactly why the proposed budget for fiscal year 2027 is higher, because of the needs that we now know. We now know that we have higher needs in special education. And that is the #1 driver of the increase of the proposed budget for next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ken Gary, just a question, just because I heard Janet talk about basically administrative function. So I guess I just want to get an understanding how this works. I know how a regular operating budget works with special ed, but seeing it with taking money out of the special ed trust fund, is there an order given by the school board to make a payment, and then at that point, does that get remitted to the trustees of the trust funds to make payment? Could you explain what the financial process is? How does it work?
So obviously, all of the purchase orders that are entered they have a GL account attached to them. So on a monthly basis, with the information that the superintendent just read out to everyone, I will know, and I'll be meeting with the special education director on a monthly basis to identify those unanticipated vendor costs. I will keep copies of them all, simple enough. I'll keep them in a folder, submit them on a monthly basis to the trustee of trust funds.
So the school board's not involved in that?
No, they're going through the process right now of what they are obligated to do by holding the public hearing and making the motion and approving the motion.
So they don't give order to make payment to the trust. Typically, they give order to the treasurer of the school district to make payment, but in this case, they would make an order to make payment. In other words, they don't approve payments.
Well, they do approve it through the manifest, which happens every month at the meetings. They go through the manifest and sign off on it.
I'm talking specifically about the special ed trust fund money.
No. Because it'll run through the operating budget. So what will happen is those lines will run negative, and that's me keeping tally of everything that's gone negative with the vendors and the identification of what's been going on.
So then the process is that the bill gets submitted per the purchase order.
Mm-hmm.
Then at that point, you notify the trustee of trust funds. They then make reimbursement to the school district.
Correct.
And then the school board then gives order to make payment to the school district treasurer?
I think you have the last bit out of order.
Okay.
The school board approves the manifest, so as we're paying the vendors and overrunning the lines, they're signing off on that. I will take those on a monthly basis, submit them to the trustee, and the trustee will cut the check back to the district. The check will go deposited into the district, into the appropriate line.
I'm asking this question because this is the first time that we're really drawing on it, and I want to make sure everybody has an understanding of how the cash flow is going to move around. I think it's a very important piece. The other piece is, Carolyn, you mentioned some very significant values. So the first thing that comes to my mind is catastrophic aid. obviously catastrophic aid does not get reimbursed in this current year, only for the following year.
Correct.
What do we anticipate for catastrophic aid? I'm assuming there's going to be some valuation. I know state law has made some adjustments and it's gone upwards. It used to be somewhere around $30,000. I think it's up higher now, basically call it a deductible, so to speak. With that in mind, those are funds that will come in next year as catastrophic aid. Those funds can, in turn, if the school district approves through a warrant article, take those funds and replace those monies in the special ed trust fund. Okay? That's totally up to the townspeople and up to the board. What I would recommend if you did that, in other words, basically create a warrant article that says, say if we get $100,000 of catastrophic aid, you can project that, you get an understanding from DOE. The school board then could put a warrant article together that said $100,000 to the special ed trust fund, because you know those revenues will be coming in. You could also put that warrant article at the lead end of it to ensure that those monies go back into the special ed trust fund. The thing that I have a concern about here is we get a very heavy draw off. And what can happen is we can take the foot off the pedal. And this is a very substantial pedal. We're going to empty the gas tank. But to make sure that we're going to start working towards a replenishment of some sort. Because the reality is, the horse is out of the gate, but we could also have a stampede afterwards. So that's just a word of caution. So I'm throwing out a forecast here of how to prepare what, hopefully does not occur, but additional costs down the road. So I'm just asking and recommending you take a very prudential look at the seriousness of it, because this is going to have ramifications, not for this year, not for next year, but a few years afterwards. This is a hit for a course I would project for another 5 or 6 years. That's the reality of it. To get us back to having a $300,000 trust fund, understanding that our operating budget is going to still be running much higher than we used to. I know I dumped out a lot right there. If I need to repeat it, I'll repeat it.
No, thank you. We have not done that before, using revenue from catastrophic aid, now called special ed aid, to use that to replenish the trust fund. But that's something we can look into, because you get that in the summer following. And, yeah, we can.
So I just don't know the timing. I just heard you talk about the order of warrant articles and your preamble. When you made your report, I don't know if it's too late to do something or not, but if we don't get it done in this March, or this deliberative session, we'll have missed the moment, and then we'll have revenues come in, and then they won't go to that special ed trust fund for next year, for the following year.
First, let me just ask a clarifying question. So essentially, you are stating earmarking the revenue from
Yes.
cash aid for that, okay?
By warrant article.
Correct. So, okay, thank you.
So you have time between now and January 13th, I thought you said, for warrant articles, to put a warrant article on your ballot to be voted on, comparable to what Ken Gary just said. So you do have time to do it.
You stated to Scott that you didn't know about these placements when the budget was done last year. But you also stated that these children were placed at the beginning of the year. So you've had 5 months. Why hasn't something been done before now? Why have you looked into grants before now? Have you done anything to try and figure out what to do besides remove every dime from that budget?
Well, a couple things I can share on that. So first, I can't, it's a fine line. I don't want to get too much into when a student was placed or not placed. It's confidential. And as far as when to withdraw out of a trust, the district had funds until now. And so, you know, we've been reviewing it. We've been reviewing the bottom line, we've been reviewing the placements, and when you hire contracted services, they cost triple the amount of hiring in-house. So we try to delay that as much as possible, but ultimately you have to hire. You have to hire even if it is a contracted service. So that's part of it. We've done that at Governor Wentworth as well. I just had this conversation where it's, okay, we can't wait anymore. We have to just go with the contracted service. So we did delay that into the fall. And then what was the last, the last part of it, as far as grants are concerned, the IDEA grant, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that act gives the entitlement grant to districts. So you're entitled to that every year. However, competitive grants would not be applicable for special education services because it's legally required for every district to cover your special ed costs. You know, it's not a an option to cover special ed costs. You have to pay for all students, including those with disabilities. You can apply for some grants, for, you know, maybe you want to install a ramp, you know, maybe you want to, you know, create something more accessible in the building, that kind of thing you can, but when it's student specific, you know, that student has a right to be here and the district is required to pay for that student.
Well, as part of the budget committee, I don't think we've heard much of any of this, and it's kind of disappointing to have it come out all at once and not have heard a little more of it before.
Well, how much is it that we receive in the IDA grant? I'll ask this other question while you're looking that up. So Kenny had talked about the CAT aid or the CAT money that comes in, catastrophe money that comes in as revenue. Currently, that comes in as revenue. We use that to offset the operating budget, I believe, when we're putting it together.
Correct.
So whether we put it in directly to the special education fund, or then we basically say take revenues away, so it's going to end up increasing our operating budget by the $100,000. So it's like you're choosing one way to put the money in versus another way, because that money would be offsetting. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
It does, however, the subsequent years, you're now in the catastrophic aid program, so you're still getting the funds thereafter every year.
No, but I'm just saying.
I understand what you're saying, but the risk that you run into is that what if you get something else? And now, it, yep.
The IDEA grant this year is $72,000. A little bit under $72,000. That's the regular IDEA and preschool.
So, with all of the talk of it being far more expensive to contract out with agencies and everything else, and it's cheaper to have in-house staff, and seeing as though the numbers of kids that are needing special ed services in our town, we've got 33 kids in the elementary school alone, which is about 25% of our kids. Why hasn't there been any discussion about potentially just hiring our own staff if it's cheaper to do that? Clearly, there's the supportive evidence showing that there's a greater need to do so versus contracting. Why hasn't there been any talk of changing course and staffing differently?
We have had those conversations. These are unanticipated.
When have you had those conversations? because I've been coming consistently for a year.
We have not proposed that to the board this year. These were unanticipated.
So I guess one of my question is you all should be talking about everything in public. And over the course of the past year and a half that I've been coming consistently, I've been hearing the need for special ed has increased. Last year, that was the song that you sang to get the position up at the middle school and high school, even though you didn't really show any kind of supportive evidence. Now we're finally starting to get a little bit of that. Why haven't you had the discussion together at your meetings to say, we need to start thinking differently because this is costing us too much, especially with all the taxpayers coming and saying, you're spending too much and we can't continue to afford this.
These are unanticipated costs this year.
But it's not unanticipated when you have consistently seen special ed services continuously going up. I don't think it was unforeseen. I think you guys tried to turn a blind eye and kick the can down the road for as long as you could, and now it's biting the kids and the taxpayers. And you're putting a great strain on our teachers because these teachers are having to compensate. And it's going to blow up in the taxpayers and the kids' faces. So for you to continuously say that this is unforeseen, I think is just completely false. It wasn't unforeseen. I think you guys just did not want to acknowledge and address it appropriately.
Can I just ask a question? So the majority of the costs that we're seeing, it sounds like, were out of district placements. That's the main increase in costs that we've seen?
Correct.
Okay, and then the additional services that were needed for the 2 students at 33 hours and 33 hours?
Correct.
Okay. So those were all that were new that were added within the last, I'm guessing, the last calendar year? Yes. Okay. So services that, I'm sorry, there's some for the yeah, those two, yeah. Okay. So there wasn't really a way to necessarily see that these 2 students were going to need out of district placement, and we can potentially, are there things that you would suggest? I'm guessing that you're thinking of like OTs and PTs and having them not provided by agencies that we're bringing in.
If those agencies and everything that we contract is so expensive, and you're saying it's 5 and 10 and 50% more, then why are we not, and you're saying that our own staff is cheaper?
That is part of it. It is part of it, the contracted services that we bring in that cost more to work with kids at the public schools. However, sometimes students have to go to an out-of-district placement regardless of what we have here. And even for schools where you have your BCBA, you have your own OT and all those positions, they still have 10% of their special ed population at out-of-district placements. So sometimes a student needs to go to an out-of-district placement regardless of what you have in place. But certainly, I'm all for proposing positions to bolster up what you have at the school. That is certainly something that only makes the school stronger. They put in services that can help a lot of students, even those without IEPs. That's a consideration for the district, for sure.
And I think it was you, Roxanne.
She answered a question I was going to ask.
Back to the IDA grant, how is that calculated? Is that based on the need of the school? So if we have a higher special education cost, we get a higher grant?
I think it's based on socioeconomic status, actually.
We don't.
We don't.
Yeah, it's nothing to do.
No, I know, but I just suspect that they would have to have.
It's enrollment and socioeconomic status.
I would say, I would think they would have to have some background to justify how Middleton only gets 72 100,000, but Wolfboro gets $1 million, or what, I'm doing that
Yes,
number,
yeah.
whatever.
But it's, the law is that it has to supplement, not supplant. So IDEA can only supplement what you have, it can't supplant.
72,000 isn't supplementing anything. I'm just
Just
saying,
explaining the law.
but hey, I guess we'll take it.
Got it.
Again, I have another multi-part question, but I'm assuming this has already happened, but have we reviewed the original warrant article? And as far as the language in the article and how or what it can be allocated to? I don't know. I couldn't find the original article when this fund was set up in time for the meeting, so I wasn't able to read the language of the original article. So I'm just ensuring that somebody has actually reviewed it.
We might want to consult someone who's aged that goes back in time, so perhaps Mr. Mullen could help us out. The Honorable Mr.
I don't know what the language is, and it might prohibit certain expenditures, it might not, I don't know.
So the article is to see if the Middleton School District will vote to raise and appropriate up to the sum of $100,000 to be added to the Special Education Trust Fund previously established. The sum to come from the June 30, 2026 fund balance available for transfer on July 1, 2026. No amount to be raised from taxation.
No, what I'm asking is the original article that was utilized to set up the trust fund, because that article will outline
The article
what
that-
can and can't expend from the fund.
The article that created the trust fund.
I see.
So I just don't know if we've actually, because right now, I'm assuming that what we're doing is valid, but for all we know, we could read that article, and it might limit the amount per year you can withdraw, it might limit your expenses, I don't know, I haven't put eyes on the original article that was used to set that up.
Oh, that's never happened, Scott.
My computer has frozen, but I have all the ballots from the beginning of time for the Middleton School District, as you know. And it looks like it was established in 2005. I want to go to a document in my computer, and I'm frozen, of course.
So that was my first question. My second question is as far as the trustee and the approval, what is the process if she submits and the trustee says, no, that doesn't qualify?
To be honest, I haven't had that experience before. All of the purchase orders have a